Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to have you here. Emerson, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's funny, but I'm currently in Berlin.
Hey, what? Seriously awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Just arrived yesterday.
Nice. What are you for work, for pleasure?
To be honest, no, this time I decided just a trip with my brother, minimum work, just
Awesome.
like a long weekend.
Yeah. Any big plans?
Big plans? Nothing big. Just enjoying myself.
That sounds like a good Berlin trip. That's awesome.
How are you?
Great. I'm good. I'm just over getting sick. So I was like, fingers crossed, and here we are. So
how do you feel?
Yeah, a lot better than I was last week. So yeah, back getting up to speed at work and everything. But yeah.
Feel well.
Yeah, a lot better. So
I just have to change the chat because I see that not everyone could chat here. So attendees could chat with each other. So now the chat is enabled. Make sure that you change it to everyone and not only host and panelists. Is the chat working? Yes, testing, Ilana, good. Iris saying come to Munich next time. I might.
I'll be in February. So yeah.
Are you're going? You're going in February?
Yeah.
So Iris is there too. Iris is here in the audience. Munich is fun. I've been there once. It was very fun.
I haven't been.
Really?
At all. Yeah.
I'm thinking about going in October.
Nice.
Because there is this conference in Austria, and I think that it's not going to be too far away. So maybe I'll do like a road trip to Munich or something.
Nice.
Oktoberfest, exactly, Elena. That's what I'll try to do. That's what I did last time. It was fun. So Emma from Boston here, excited to continue the conversation. Part 1 was excellent. Thank you for joining. I'm very excited for the follow-up as well. So we have 100 people here live, almost 500 people sign up for the event, by the way. That's amazing. And we have Federica from Portugal, greeting from Orange County, California, from Monique. And hello from Sweden and NYC, California, Sweden, Bulgaria. Hello, Diana, how are you? And 104 people here. Nikki from Vancouver. Emerson, you're going to be in Stockholm tomorrow. What's the plan? Traveling all over the place. What's going on?
Yeah. My brother lives in Stockholm, so I get to see my brother and my 4-year-old niece. So and my sister-in-law. They're great. So
nice. In which part of Stockholm do they live?
They live north of the city, closer to the airport, but
nice. I've been there a few times before. It's a fun place as well.
Yeah.
Suderman, Osterman. It's good. Like it was cool. Anyway, Anya from our team is originally from Stockholm as well, I believe. Derek from Toronto, Michelle, USA, Nicole from South Africa, Rachel from Arizona, Laura from California, Christine from Colorado. So you know Rachel.
I worked with Rachel at Northern Arizona University for a good long while. So hi, Rachel.
Really? So we'll take a few more minutes and then we could just start. What do you think? And I see Emmy in Toronto and Marissa from Richmond. Barbara is from California, originally from Poland. Hello. And hello, everyone. Welcome to our event brought to you by the UX Writing Hub. I'm very excited to have you here today. My name is Yuval Keshtecher. I'm the founder of the UX Writing Hub. It's a platform that we've built a few years ago, helping people to get into the field of UX writing and content design. We have different products that help people to do it, such as the UX Writing Academy, We have also the UX Writing Flex, which is for busier people that need more flexible schedule. And we just launched this year our new course, which is Figma for UX writers and content designers, which is another class that we're running with our amazing instructor, Sarah Loige. So a lot of training for UX writers, basically. And we're doing these type of events every month. So make sure that you keep us on your radar and join our events because they're extremely important for the community. We always try to bring the best speakers, and we try to bring the best of the best speakers twice. And that's why we have Emerson here today for the second time. Emerson, a person that is very dear to my heart, and I'm very happy that you are here today. Always provide tons of value, leaving people with so many more ideas and insights. So we had to do this follow-up call today. So awesome to have you here. And if you want to follow our weekly newsletter, everyone, so we have the weekly newsletter, check it out. And if you're interested in any UX writing training, we have the free UX writing course, which we invested a lot of efforts to build. So we have a free UX writing course, and that's the one. And that's more or less about that. We could share a link to part one. I'll just write it to myself, and we will share it in the follow-up email with the link to part two and with the link to part one. So that's more or less about that. In addition to UX Writing Hub, just for you to know, we also work as an agency. So we work for different clients, trying to bring the most innovation UX writing practices to the biggest companies in the world. That's it about it. Without further ado, we'll have Emerson, and Emerson will take it away. Emerson, how are you? You're muted. 1 second.
I thought I had screen sharing permissions. It's thinking about it. Give me 1 second here and I'll get it.
Let me see. On my end, it looks like you can do it. Maybe I will promote you to be the host, and then it will be better.
Let me see. It also wants me to, give me 1 second. It wants me to change my preferences. I thought I fixed this last time, but here we are. Oh, it wants me to quit Zoom and hop back in.
Thank you, Melody, for sending part one.
I'll be right back.
No worries. We're here. Emerson will be right back. Amin is asking, is there an easy way to get event updates? So in our weekly newsletter, basically, we share all of the different updates that we have. And by the way, for people that join our weekly events, so there is some kind of a mailing list that update everyone, basically. Okay, let's just wait for Emerson to join us back, and she's here. They're here.
I'm here. Can you might need to promote me to panelist again.
I think you're panelist now, but let me see.
Awesome. All right, so then here we are.
Is it working?
Now it'll let me share. All right, sorry about that.
Would you like to send me? Oh, it lets you.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you. I must apologize because I guess I should join the call earlier.
I think it was my, I think it was just my, oh my goodness, why words. It was my system preferences. So
okay,
good. Yeah.
So thank you so much, and take it away.
Yeah, looking forward to getting into this again. So to those of you who are at the last one, thanks for joining again. Good to see you. And if you weren't able to join the last one, we're going to do a brief overview, little review as we get started. So we'll have some context to start. But yeah, my goal is going to be today to give you, like I said, a brief overview, a little intro. And then I want to get right into some of the practicalities. And then I want to get from there into, I want to give you an idea of how keyboard navigation works, how screen reader navigation works, troubleshoot a couple things kind of lightly, and then open up a lot more room than we had last time for questions and discussion. So that's the goal. but I will pause for questions along the way. I would say if you feel like it can be answered later on in the presentation, definitely hold off. If you have something that's really going to get in the way as we're going forward, definitely pop it in the chat. Maybe Yuval, you can help me keep an eye on that.
Yes.
But yeah, so a little about me. I work with cool people at HelloFresh. I have a background in marketing, higher ed, creative writing, and a lot in the other category, like working in a movie theater and a coffee shop and life insurance and all kinds of things. Interestingly enough, it all factors into my work as a UX writer. It's really cool how many different things always come up for me. I'm a plant parent, I'm a cat servant, and I'm non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. I am not an expert in inclusive design, accessibility, etc. I have learned a lot of things and I continue learning a lot of things, and I like learning with other people. And so that's my goal here today, is share some of what I know and talk about it with people that I want to learn with. So here's the plan. Review, brief intro, best practices to get started, some accessibility basics, like I said, troubleshooting, and then discussion. You'll understand the Panda a little bit better in a minute if you weren't here with us in October. All right, so whoops, skipped ahead there. Okay, what is inclusive UX writing? The next slide, which I already flashed to, sorry about that. It's a lot of information. Try not to get overwhelmed. Pay attention to over here on the left side of the screen. That will be a little less overwhelming. I'll unpack the other side here in a second. So inclusive UX writing, it's UX writing. It actively and intentionally factors in the needs of more people, specifically users who experience exclusion. For the purposes of this discussion, because there's so much practical application within UX writing, we're going to talk about people with disabilities who use assistive technology. All right, so going over to the right side of the screen here, we have our little Panda diagram. Okay, so these are all of our users. This is the Panda head. These are the users of our, let's say, a hypothetical app that we all work on together. We're cool people that work together. So our participants, these are all the people who use our app, all right? The little button nose right here, these are people who often experience exclusion, and we know that, and so we tried to design, create a product that really works to meet their needs, but in some ways we failed and they still experience exclusion, all right? And over here, the left ear, these are people who we don't actively and intentionally factor in their needs. And so of course they experience exclusion, right? Now, some of these are people who use our app. Some of these are people who don't use our app, but might if we did a little bit better in meeting their needs, right? So that's the inclusive Panda, like in a nutshell. We're going to send the presentation out afterwards. I've got it linked here if you want to learn more about the inclusive Panda. But there's the explanation of why we have so many pandas throughout this presentation. So that was in a little information bomb. Absorb, holler if you have a question. And I'm going to move forward. All right. So
we can move forward.
What's that?
Good to go.
Okay, cool.
No questions.
Let me see if I can I actually, oh, here, haha, I just found where I can open up the chat on my other window. Perfect. Inclusive UX writing uses language that actively and intentionally includes more people. It considers the words that land on and off the screen. Okay, it's not just what users can perceive visually, right? We're looking, just as we do as UX writers, as this is the job, is looking at where do the words land in the user experience. What is the structure of that conversation, right? How does the UX change from one device to another, and from with or without assistive technology? How does that shift? This requires learning about different assistive technology, which, what a wild world that is. It's really incredible once you start researching this. I would like to life goals bucket list. I want to get a list of all of these assistive technologies and start learning, how do digital products interact with all of these, or how do they interpret all of these digital products, right? A whole world to explore there. But inclusive UX writing also pays attention to how the conversation is going, how we get users from one point to the next, but we go beyond that to look at how do we adapt the conversation to meet varying needs in different contexts. And to dig really, really further into that, you want to go to Microsoft Design's Inclusive Design Toolkit, which I have linked later in the presentation, or you can go back and watch part 1 of this presentation where I kind of unpacked it a little bit. And then we look at how information elements appear on screen, but also behind the curtain in the code. This does not mean that you have to learn how to code to be an inclusive UX writer. It means that code is an important part of it. And so you need to be able to collaborate well with your developers. So there's that. Beyond that, let me come back to my, yeah, there we are. Inclusive UX writers, we're always on the lookout for overtly excluding or harmful language, of course. We want to avoid the isms, racism, ableism, etc. These do sneak in ways that we often don't realize. And that's a whole other talk that we could have. We also want to be on the lookout for edge cases. Edge cases, I may have said something about this in part 1. I get on such a soapbox about edge cases because I feel like it's often a phrase that we use to kind of shuffle off, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, well, this is just an edge case, so let's just pay attention to what actually matters. And I wonder, it's a curiosity. What if we paid more attention to those edge cases? Because somewhere in there, you have a very specific set of needs. And as we talked about in part 1, paradox of specificity here, if we can solve a more specific set of needs, it's very likely that we'll create a solution that works in really, really good ways for a lot of other people, a lot of other users in this bigger circle in the pandas head, right? Yeah. We also pay attention to alt copy, link copy, color contrast, things that kind of overlap with more the design side of things, but it's what makes our content accessible. And so these are things we need to pay attention to. This next bullet point we're going to cover, you'll understand this a little better by the end of this presentation, but content containers, reading order specific content for screen readers. We want to be on the lookout for whether or not those are lacking, or where we need those. And then tabbing order for keyboard navigation, which you're also going to get a flavor of. And there's always more, always more here, but there's a short list. All right, so I'm going to pause. Questions? Anything pressing right now?
I see right here in the Q&A, Rachel is asking, how closely is UX design linked to universal design? Apologies if you discussed this in earlier session.
I'm going to be really honest with you. I haven't touched universal design since I was at the university. I would say my understanding of it is that universal design is going to be, I want to say it's a subset of inclusive design. Inclusive design is such an umbrella term. Accessibility fits under the umbrella of inclusive design. I know that Career Foundry published an article on the differences for these. When I was there, working there, I had a freelance writer, Cynthia wrote about this. I'll see if I can find the link and send it to you, Yuval.
Sure.
Afterwards, and maybe it can go out with the
email.
Yeah.
No problem. Sounds good. And another question by Ilana, what are edge cases exactly?
Yeah, so edge cases, the way that I often hear them described, so you have what the user experience is. And as you're doing user research, you find out that people have different ways of using the product, different journeys they take through the product, right? Edge cases are the ones that it's like, oh, wait, some people are doing this, but it's just a couple of them, so it doesn't matter. So often it's used to kind of shuffle it off where I'm like, wait, what are they doing? And can we make that work better for them? So yeah, that's what edge cases are. They're kind of out on the periphery out here. Yeah. Other questions before we move on? We good?
I think we're good.
Cool. Okay. So in this section, we're going to talk best practices to get you started, but this may not be what you expect or what you want, but I think it's more important. I think accessibility is something that, so we can talk about it theoretically, right? But that doesn't actually get the job done. And then we can talk about it purely in practical terms, but then it becomes this sort of thing that we can check off of a to-do list and say, okay, we've done accessibility, we've done inclusion. being inclusive as a UX writer, I would say this applies to any field, but inclusion is going to mean changing the way we think about our work. It means it's a perspective shift. It means helping to reshape the way you perceive your job, the way you look at design screens and Figma and things like this. It means changing the way you look at it, and that takes changing habits. And that means a lot of continuous learning over the long haul. And so best practices to get started, I'm going to center this around habits that we can cultivate that help us to start seeing our work differently. I touched on these very briefly in part 1. I'm going to touch on them briefly again and say, if you take nothing else from this presentation, take this. I'm just going to cover the next slide. The ones that follow, you can unpack yourself. There's linked resources, ideas for how to do these different things. But this whole thing didn't feel complete without going into this. So that's what we're going to do. So 5 points. All right. Atomic habits. Yes, I saw that. So how to become an inclusive UX writer. The first thing to do is to cultivate an ability to call yourself out. You're going to make mistakes. Be able to recognize that and look at it as, oh, there's a knowledge gap. Let's fix that. Invite yourself into, call yourself into a learning process. Okay, really important. Self-awareness and reflection, cannot say how important that is in all of this. Assessing your knowledge gaps, you're going to run into things you don't know. You will. For me, this comes up constantly when I'm doing actually in the process of doing a more extensive audit, screen reader audit with some of the user flows at HelloFresh. And oh my goodness, on a phone, there's so much I don't know. And I very frequently am like, Siri, turn off voiceover. I can't find my way out of this app. And so assess your knowledge gaps, gather resources to kickstart your learning process, and then do the thing, learn some stuff. And really hold yourself accountable to that. Point 4 is to develop an understanding to talk about the business and understanding of, and the ability to talk about the business value of inclusive design, accessibility, etc. Depends on your context, right? I feel very lucky at HelloFresh. There's nobody I talk to about accessibility who's like, well, why does it matter? Just like, yes, let's do it. Okay, so people are very into it. That's not always the case for where everybody works. And so you do need to justify it at times. And even where I'm at, there's still the need to say, I find an accessibility bug, I put in a ticket. Sometimes I have to like talk about why I am calling this urgent, like why it needs to be prioritized. And so develop that skill. There's more about that in part 1, where we talk about paradox of specificity and some of these things. Yeah. And the last one, this is the fun one. This is find your people. Accessibility, inclusion, it's a long game. It doesn't happen overnight, and it happens with the support of a lot of people. You cannot, as a UX writer, pull off accessibility on your own. Make friends. There are people in this chat. Connect with each other, talk, learn from each other. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm on a bit of a break with LinkedIn right now, but like find me on LinkedIn. When you find resources, post them to LinkedIn, tag me, share knowledge. Finding your people is like one of the best things you can do on this road. So, right. As I said, what follows is a lot of cute GIFs, however you want to pronounce that. I'm going to be inclusive. These are the slides I'll let you take in at your own pace. There's linked resources, etc. And I'm going to pause, absorb. Oh, thank you, Yuval, for posting that. Questions about just kind of general habit setting where this is concerned before we dive into the practicalities? Do we have anything, Yuval, on the Q&A? I can't see the Q&A from where I'm at.
All right, so I see, wait, because the Q&A is a bit messy sometimes. Okay. How closely related is inclusive UX writing to localization, please?
I'd say it's still different, parallel, but I would say there's probably a lot of people who work in localization who could learn how to do it more inclusively and accessibly as well. And so I would say the inclusion aspect of all of this is a layer that you can put on top of any field in design, in product design. I would say any field, period. But yeah. So
I just think, in my personal opinion, that maybe, I don't know, but localization is a branch of inclusive writing, because you want to include people that talk in different languages, basically, and you want to make sure that you speak to their language, to their culture, and so on. So that's, I don't know, what I think, maybe.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. So in some ways closer even to inclusion in that sense of including more people in the conversation.
There is the statistics from the localization people, and they say that people buy 60% of the people buy from apps and products that speak to their language. So basically, so it's a good business decision, basically, to include those people.
Yeah, love it.
Okay. George is asking, do you have any tips on how to find people within your organization who are also interested or want to advocate for inclusive design, or to explain the importance of inclusive design to others within an organization?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of this in my current role. The way it happens for me is I talk about it all the time. Anybody who works at HelloFresh is like, oh yeah, Emerson's talking about inclusion again. Because I just, accessibility, so it's always something that I bring up. And as you do that, people, you find each other. We're like magnets. There's also, I know any place that I've worked in the last 5 years, there's a Slack channel or some sort of connection point there around accessibility, DEI. If you have people who work in DEI.
What's DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you have that's a group in your workplace, they will probably have some guidance as far as who they know. But yeah, talk about it and ask around. Yeah.
Martina is asking, back to edge cases. You're saying take them into account means to work from the particular to the general, thinking that specific needs for sure have to solve the general ones?
Yes and no. So I think, I mean, and this isn't to say every edge case is an opportunity for inclusion, not necessarily. But I do think that edge cases need a little bit more attention, because sometimes, as you said, yes, as you said, sometimes you focus on the edge case, a very specific set of needs. When you solve that specific set of needs, triggering this paradox of specificity, which, and I'll just summarize this in short. When you solve a more specific set of needs, it actually ends up working for a much larger group of people. And so, yes, how did you say that? Working from the particular to the general, solving for the particular helps the general, right? An example of this would be curb cuts in the sidewalks. It's also called the curb cut effect. So these were originally put in to help people who use wheelchairs, walkers, that sort of thing. And yet it's actually something that's quite useful to a lot of people, right? So there's that.
Sorry, I was just muted. So I see that we have some more questions. So let me know if you would like to move forward and then tackle those questions afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Okay. By the way, everyone, I just noticed that I just talked about different links and stuff, and I forgot to share them with you. I just basically shared it with myself only.
Oh,
so
no.
so this is the link to the newsletter, and this is the link to the free course, and everyone are invited to join. Sorry about that. That's it.
Awesome. All right. So the extreme basics of accessibility. We're going to focus, like I said, on keyboard navigation and screen reader. And it's going to be the basics of this because I feel like it's probably going to be quite enough for us to work with. So we're going to start with keyboard nav. And the reason we want to start there is because it's quite accessible itself. I use keyboard navigation sometimes just in my day-to-day. Keyboard shortcuts is a form of keyboard navigation. But keyboard navigation is also, in my experience, not always, but often, sometimes, it's a useful way into finding out about or realizing that there are other issues. Right. So the example I have here is, you're going to just see my full screen here, and that's going to be fine. Here we are. Bigger. All right, so I came to this screen some time ago. Just refresh this so it starts where I want it to. I did a quick audit and I started with keyboard nav. And so I'm gonna hit my tab key and just watch what happens on this screen. All right, everybody catch this? Okay, so this is keyboard focus, right? Usually looks something like this across platforms, different in different browsers, but yeah. When you tab over, it's going to follow sequentially the interactive elements on the screen. So looking at the screen, there are a lot of interactive elements. Pop in the chat if you want to, but think about where, if I tab over again, where is keyboard focus going to land? Where should it land? Any wild guesses? On register. Okay. No. And the reason it didn't land on register, choose your plan. Okay, so we have register, which is not it's not currently an interactive element, right? Oops, sorry about that. I forgot I have I'm doing physio right now and I'm supposed to do exercises every like half hour. So, all right, so it skips register because that's not currently an interactive element. It skips all of this because the text itself is not an interactive element. So yeah, it skips right down to meat and veggies, which is interactive, okay? Now, when I was first auditing this page, it didn't go there. It went all the way over here, which where did keyboard focus go? We can't see it now because it's hiding within the green highlight around the 2, okay? And so I reached out to the team who owns this page. I said, hey, we need to make this more accessible. Here's what we need. And now it's been fixed. So with keyboard navigation, you can tab to go forward. You go shift tab to move backwards and enter to interact with whatever it is that you're on, is how that works. I don't know, why did I skip pescatarian? That wasn't very inclusive. All right, so that's how this works. In short. Now, fun fact, after we fixed that aspect of the page, it revealed other accessibilities that were underneath that within these little buttons that I've already put in a ticket for. And yeah, so that was interesting. But yeah, that's basics of keyboard navigation, moving through very quickly. All right, any pressing questions about keyboard nav? How do you deselect an option on the keyboard? Oh, I don't know.
Maybe pressing the escape button?
Maybe.
And that's a guess.
Let's find out. No. It's a good question. I'm guessing, because there's a lot with keyboard nav I also haven't explored, I'm guessing there is a way to pop out and then back up into like browser navigation, switch tabs and things like this. There's going to be a way to do that. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Yeah. I don't have fluency in these tools, right? Which it's bucket list. All right, so there's basics of keyboard nav. You wish HelloFresh had a vegan meal. It's not the first time I've heard that. So you choose a meal preference next time. Oh, yeah, I can keep showing this. Let's see, go to how does a person know what the 2 is referring to? So keyboard navigation is something that lots of people use keyboard navigation for a lot of reasons. Keyboard navigation is a way of navigating for people who are blind or have low vision, so who are using screen readers. And we'll get into that in just a minute. For other assistive technology is based on keyboard navigation as well. And this is, again, we're reaching my growing edge is right in there where I'm just like, okay, but how? How does that work? What is it? How is it built? I think that screen magnification, this is something that's come up in some of our research at HelloFresh, where folks who are perhaps low vision use screen magnification, and having that tab key take them to these interactive elements can be very, very helpful. Hey, thanks. Oh, look at us learning together. I'm gonna go click on this right now and save it. Sorry, that's gonna be just in there. Thank you for that. But yes, so it's gonna tab, just like this. So it's keyboard navigation on its own works when there is some ability to perceive the screen visually on its own. Okay. But yeah. All right. Other pressing questions or okay, I'm going to move forward. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go here. Give me a second. Sorry about this. All right, so we're going to go. We did this in part 1 as well. I'll go back to Volt because I like Volt. I'm a big fan of Volt. It's a product that I know my way around very well, and so we're going to do a little exploration with a screen reader. But first, I need to check and see if you'll be able to hear the screen reader while it's playing. So let's go back here. So just be in the chat, be ready, or Yuval, anybody give me a clue as to whether or not you can hear when I enable voiceover.
No problem.
Okay. I don't know how loud this might be in your speakers, so maybe be ready with your volume controls, okay? Right.
Voiceover on system preferences. Voiceover off. A mini to everyone. We.
Okay, there. Wow, I don't know what it did there. Okay, it works. Excellent.
It's okay.
All right. Okay, so we are going to, this can be because I have it set up where my screen reader, and the voiceover is the one that's native to Apple products. My screen reader is going to give me all of these directions in terms of which buttons and things like this as well. And so it can be a little chaotic. So when you hear a little beeping sound, that's me using keyboard controls to make it stop talking because I get some sensory overload while that's happening. But I'm using, as I go through, I'm going to be using Control Option together and the arrow keys for the most part, as well as the space bar to navigate. I'm going to try and remember to kind of externalize that since you can't see my hands. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the navigation at the top and pause, give everybody a break, a chance to kind of note how it's working, right? So you're going to see how a screen reader works kind of just, yeah, for just a few minutes here. All right.
Voiceover on system preferences. Show accessibility status in menu bar. Untick Chrome. Berlin, Maine. You are currently on a visited link. Wall to house a logo. Footer. You are currently on a footer. End of main. You are link. Wall Gutherbin verse Schenken.
Give me a second.
You are currently on a link.
Give me a second.
To click this link, press Control Option. Dimmed link. You are visited
There we
link.
are.
Wall to house a logo. Main.
All right.
You are currently on a link. To click this link, press Control Option space.
How was that for chaos? Y'all doing okay?
Punct actualicidad. A tips element is battle to everyone. Whoa. Pilar Perales to everyone.
Hang on.
Wow.
It's reading the chats. Okay, I'm gonna have to
Maria
think about
Al
that.
here to everyone. Wow. Q&A system dial. Pump Emerson Schroeder. Computer audio. Ilana Levine to every Chrome.
All right.
Berlin. Wow. Menu. Matt to everyone. Menu. Marina system notes to everyone. Accessibility. Voice over and fear.
How y'all doing over there?
That was fun.
All right, so what I did not take into account is that it's going to be reading what's happening in the chat as well. So
That is funny, to be honest.
it's not fun. It's not an adventure. Okay, so I'm going to ask if everyone will stop chatting for just a second.
Oh, you know what I can do? I can pause the chat. Well,
Okay.
hold on.
Awesome. All right.
I think now.
Awesome, thank you. This also reminded me, I want to put this in English so that you're not getting bombarded with a lot of random German. So the copy here is not Volt quality English, it's Google Translate quality English. No offense to anybody at Google. All right, so we're going to do this again. I hope y'all are doing okay. The first time I used the screen reader, I was like, I don't do this anymore. No. Okay, so we're going to do this again. Bear with.
Voice of Chrome. Berlin. Entering Berlin. Wild. Food. Restaurant. Visited. Link. Wall home logo. Main. You are currently on a link. To click this link, press Control Option space.
Okay, so it gives us context. What is this thing? What does it do? How do you activate it? All right. Now I'm going to go Control Option right arrow key, and it should take us to the delivery to.
Delivery to Berlin. Menu pop-up button.
All right. And now that beep was me making it stop talking. So bear with. Next, we go there.
Delete search. Dim register. Up to register. Button group. You are currently on a button group. To click this button, press Control Option Space. Discover. Selected tab group. You are currently on a selected tab group. Restaurants tab group. You are currently on a tab group. To select this option, press Control Option Space.
Okay, so you notice with Discover, it told us to, it didn't give us the selection option because it's already selected. And with the next one, we're able then to select it.
Shops tab group. You are currently on a tab group.
Now, I'm going to skip this carousel because I was in it earlier today, and it creates a little bit more chaos. And I think we've all had enough of that chaos with the competing platforms for a second there. But what I did notice as I went through the carousel is that it takes you, so each of these articles, they're grouped together so that it says soul food, and then it reads the description. And then you can move on to the next one, but it goes through all of them. And there's like 20 some articles in this whole thing. So you go through each heading and description, heading, description, heading, description, heading, description before it moves you out of the carousel. And I want to, which is why I want to skip that particular bit of chaos. I don't know if you caught it before when we had a lot of the chaos going on, but there was, the screen reader said, Punkt, blah, 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 some German. That was from the Volt website, and it was this carousel automatically rotated, and it was giving us a notification that it had rotated. And what I found as I went further down the screen, it's not doing it right now for some reason. I don't know why. Something, and I don't know what I did there. But as I scrolled down, even when I couldn't visually perceive the carousel, it would give me this notification every time the thing scrolled, which isn't great. So accessibility, very, very fine point accessibility thing. When you have carousels and things like this, it's best if they're stationary and people have to go and like select one of the arrow keys to actually make it scroll. Okay. Now I'm gonna go
restaurants selected, restaurants unselected, previous dimmed button group.
All right, so it's got us on this previous and it's dimmed, so we can't select it. But next.
Continue button group. You are currently on a button group. To click this button, press Control Option Space.
And that's what happens when we activate it, right? And then we go Control Option.
Link heading level 3. Vegetarian visited link heading level 3. Japanese 139 link heading level 3. Bowl 114 options. You are currently on a link. To click this link, press Control Option Space.
Okay.
Visited link.
All right. That's how this works. It just goes down the page like this. Actually, maybe I'm going to show you. Listen to this one.
B selected.
No.
You are currently off. Selected. You are previous heading level 2 items. Off to the south. Smiling face with sunglasses. Sun. You are currently on a heading level 2.
Okay. So this is how a screen reader interprets emoji, which is another thing to be mindful of. All right. So Yuval, we can come back to the chat. I think that was enough of
No problem.
that for now. Yeah.
Actualización. Tips elementos tortas Donnerstag sparkles.
Ha, did you hear that?
Welcome back.
That was the notification I told you about. It was telling us that this had changed. Changed. So
Inclusive UX system preferences. Voiceover command server to everyone. Grinning.
all right. So beyond the chaos and the anxiety of that, I don't know about you, that was an anxiety provoking thing for me. What did you notice? Can you jump ahead and avoid the carousel? If there may be a keyboard, a way to navigate screen reader where you can skip that whole carousel, skip the list. I did not find it today. And so you had to just go through the entire thing. The other thing I noticed, and I noticed this on a lot of websites, this is not me hating on Volt at all. I love Volt. but there's no, when you first tab over, there's no skip navigation option. So at the very beginning, on every new page, you have to go tab, 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 to get past navigation, right? Other noticings, let's see, let me go up in the chat here. The voice itself is awful, I agree. Yeah, carousel is bad. You can slow down the speed, I believe, if you get into the settings. And I think that it would probably make it less anxiety provoking on the whole. You can also set it where it doesn't give you the instructions for the keyboard shortcuts, which really cuts down on the noise. So yeah. Yeah, there is so much going on page by page. It does tell you how it's coded. Yeah. Information architecture for this. This is another thing where the code and the content intersect. If heading labels are not the way they should be, it can be very difficult because there are keyboard shortcuts with screen readers where you can skip to just the headings in the page. You can just read the headings and get all the way down, look for the section you're trying to get to. And if those are not coded correctly, there's nothing to go on. Yeah. A lot of the technical language may not be useful for users. I think that as well, when you get into, so some of the resources I linked, Kayla with a C is, this is a person on YouTube who, she's blind, and watch her navigate with a screen reader. Watching me navigate with a screen reader is like watching, it's like watching a 2-year-old or someone younger. How old are kids when they learn how to walk? Probably younger than that. But like watching a kid learn how to walk, it's just like, okay, we're going to fall down a few times. People who actually use these in their day-to-day, there's a lot more fluency. So it was very repetitive with the instructions. Yes. Yes, as I said, you can take the instructions out. Yeah. There's a comment here about it doesn't communicate the steps properly. It could have been less technical and easier. And I agree. There's a part of me that's like, we need UX writers to work for screen reader companies. We need that. Yeah. The arrow keys, no. Once you turn on voiceover, the arrow keys work very differently. It changes some of your keyboard functionality. Take longer to navigate this way. Waiting for the description alone to finish would add time to any action. So this is, again, the time that it takes to get through the page. This is some of you're watching me learn how to walk with some of this. Check out, again, with the resources, Kayla with a C, and you'll see a pro at work with a screen reader. Yeah, exactly. Lauren said this, like, yeah, looks like Lauren has blind friends who use their screen readers at least double this speed, which is just, what? That's amazing. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to move on. Oh, wait, there's a lot more comments here. Y'all are really into this. This is great. I'm just going to scroll through. Give me a second here. What error messages used to be like. Very true. Very true. All right. So here. Yeah. So they read the page in the order of the language rules. So with English, German, etc., they're going to read left to right, top to bottom. And it's very important to note that screen readers are extremely logical. They are Spock. Okay, they are extremely logical. They will read as it is coded. They read what is on the screen, unless we tell them to do otherwise. How content is grouped is going to have an impact on this. You're going to see more of that in just a second. And element labels. This makes a difference. How we label things. Again, you're going to see this in just a second. Are we good to go forward with some troubleshooting? Give me a clue in the chat, or do you have more questions?
Yes, John is saying sure.
Let's go. All right. So these 3 cards right here. That's just there for context. This is what's live in the HelloFresh app. Sorry, the HelloFresh website. In the US. And then here we're going to take a closer look at what's happening in one of these recipe cards. All right. So navigating this with screen reader, if we were to navigate to this so that keyboard focus was around this card, what would you expect to be the first thing that we perceive via screen reader? What's probably going to be the first thing? Name of the product or the image alt attribute, depending on how we've got that coded, correct? I'm going to pause for just a second because there was a comment here. Alexis said something that I think is so on point, so on point. I'm just going to read this word for word. It's perfect. Thank you, Alexis. I think the reaction to the speed and style really highlights how far away we are from empathizing with screen reader users. It would be really interesting to see screen reader user research on the things that rub us the wrong way. Wouldn't it though? Oh my gosh, yes, really good. All right, so we're gonna encounter either the alt text for the image or the title first, right? So let's go into this. Here's the first problem we're going to encounter via screen reader. Some screen readers, not all, and it might depend on screen reader settings, but symbols like this are usually read out or can be read out in an awkward way. So we would say with zucchini ampersand chili flakes. And so in cases like this, you need to work with your developers to provide copy that's going to interpret that differently for screen reader users so that we get with zucchini and chili flakes. So there's a little thing. Other examples of stylized copy or symbols that can be tricky. A screen reader will read this as add another dinner for $10.99, $9.99 per person. Confusing. And so this is one that came up for me again, just I think last week. And I just popped in the comment that I put in Figma here, and I had tagged my designer and my developer just to explain, like, this makes sense visually. We need something else for screen reader. And so that's how we did that. Icons like this, oops, sorry about that. Oh, back. Icons like the little truck here. I hear mixed stories on what to do here, but I tend to stick with, is the image moving people along, or what is it trying to communicate, and how do we put words to that that the screen reader can interpret? And with this, we don't necessarily need anything. So here we can just set it. You can work again with your developer and set it so that it ignores the icon completely and skips over to coming up, edit delivery by, and here the screen reader is going to read SAT May 3. So another question of how can we make that work better? Yeah. John, I like this. I would write it as $9.99 instead of $10.99 for the screen reader micro copy. I like this actually. Thank you. I might go in and I don't think it's been done yet. It's like all right. So then the little box here, which is for an order summary. If this isn't done properly, the way it can come across in screen reader would be button and then something for the box image, and then the number 3 is how it can come across via screen reader. Again, you're going to get, there's a theme here. Talk to your developer. Your developer needs to group these together, group it together, and create a label. These accessibility labels are incredibly important here. Create a label for it so that when we go via screen reader, it says order summary button, and then tells them how they can activate that button, right? We can still get the 3 across by, so maybe we might even say something like 3 items in your box, order summary button, etc. Okay, so those are some examples. Now, yeah, 30 min, I'm just like, I need context. Is this total time, cooking time? What is it? There's this one. The slash, a lot of screen readers can interpret that as /, so 187 / serving. So another place to pay attention to, providing alternate copy. This is one that we worked on actually last year sometime, where if attention isn't given to it, what you get is -1 in your box, 2 servings, plus. This doesn't make sense. And so what we changed it to is 1 in your box, 2 servings, and then remove 1, add 1. And I added a layer of specificity to that so that it's remove 1 Italian chicken, add 1 Italian chicken, because if they step away and they're doing something else for a while and they come back to this, they don't remember which card they're on. it gives them that additional context. But yeah. So we can have all those things. It has to be coded. Exactly. The collaboration between developers and UX writers, I can't even tell you how incredibly important it is to have that collaboration. Whether you're doing it through annotating design files, there are accessibility annotations you can use within Figma, or meeting with your developers for a handover, whatever it is, establish a good collaboration there, because that's going to be your secret to success with this. Nice. All right. One more thing here, and then I want to just jump to, oh my gosh, I guess we answer questions along the way, but right here, let's talk about this. So total time. Okay, if we're screen readers are logical, remember, total time. What is the screen reader going to read next if we're not mindful about how we group these? Exactly. Total time, calories, difficulty, minus 1 in your box, plus 30 min, 740 kcal, easy, okay? It's going to be a disaster. And so we need to group these together. And this is a really simple thing. Again, talk to your developers and just to communicate. Most of the time, in my experience, my developers typically, they get that, they know that that needs to be the way that it flows, but it needs to be double checked, because if that's not captured, it's chaos, okay? How do you code for alt text copy, like having alt text? In terms of the how, I don't know. My developers are magical beings. I talk to my developers and they make it happen. So I have in my L&D learning and development budget this year, I'm going to be doing some basic coding courses and stuff so that I can understand this all a little bit better. Yeah, they are magical. My screen reader voice, do I sound like a screen reader? I don't know. All right. That's the basics. Hit me with some questions. We have a few more minutes, so what have we?
Maybe we can jump into the Q&A. How does screen reader interrupt infographics? So are infographics just not a great option for inclusive UX?
Infographics can be great as long as they're done inclusively. And so I think for those to be inclusive, you need to make sure the alt copy, but you need to make sure you're also unpacking the information elsewhere in the copy. So the copy that's around the infographic needs to unpack it. So really infographics require more writing. It's not a word saving measure necessarily. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Is there a way to gather data on your customer base to understand how many of them need more inclusive design?
Say that again.
Okay, so let's say that we want to have like, we want to present a business case and we want to say, this is the amount of people and that need more inclusive design. So is there a way to gather data on your customer base to understand how many of them need your inclusive design, more inclusive design?
That's tricky without potentially violating privacy laws and stuff. And so, yeah, I would say talking to user research team if you have that, otherwise being very careful about how you collect that information. If you can't get specific information about your user base, there's a tool that is linked in the presentation for the first part of this. It's called How Many People. And you type in your number of users and it gives you estimates of how many people might have various disabilities. It's based on UK data, but if you figure it's going to be higher some places, lower some places, you can even look at the percentages in the UK versus where you're at if you're not in the UK, and kind of create estimates based on that. Do a little math, but yeah. Having those numbers, it can make a difference, make a big difference.
All right, this is saying, can't wait to put these insights to use. Thanks, all caps. Oh, that's, is it something that the screen reader do, by the way?
If you put it in all caps.
You know, when I write to someone in
Yeah.
all caps, it's like I'm shouting at him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Screen readers are tricky with that because sometimes it'll read it out, just read the word, and sometimes it will interpret it as an acronym. And so it would say THANKS, something like that. It would spell it out. So yeah, that's another one that's a little tricky.
no, that's fine. It's like I think it's a good use case that you brought us to the table.
Yeah.
I don't think you're literally shouting at us. No, don't worry about it. We appreciate your being thankful in all caps. Okay, let's grab a few more questions before we wrap it up because we want to appreciate people's time. Do screen readers work the same way for apps?
No. For apps, when you're on mobile devices, it's working with gestures, things that you can do. This is one of the reasons why I'm going to be working a lot with screen readers on my phone, and I'm getting another device from work actually next week, so that I can start learning this more and understanding more how that works, because it is quite different. Yeah. Interesting.
I wonder, like, if it's different also between Apple devices and Android devices as well.
That's why I'm getting an Android device. I have my iPhone, and I'm gonna use both of the screen readers that are native there to compare the differences too and how they interpret content. So it'll be really interesting. Yeah.
It is. That's awesome. John saying, so I imagine when you're testing, you have to test all kinds of OSs. Oh, I think that's the question that we just asked. So thanks, John, for bringing it up. Okay, last question. Just to clarify, do you use separate copies specifically for screen readers, which would exclude things like symbols, abbreviations, etc., or should all copy on website just not include abbreviations and symbols, etc.?
Good question. I think when possible, avoid it, because ideally what's on the screen works well for screen readers. Ideally, that's how it works. It's also simpler code, right? And so, yeah, so ideally we just avoid these things. Sometimes it's not possible. You're working with designers, product owners, you have a lot of stakeholders in a lot of projects, and user research. Sometimes it's like, we need something to signify this more visually, like the strike through on the 1099 and that one bit of copy, and sometimes there's not a way around it. And so, yeah.
Cool. Aminata hopped in 1 hour late. I apologize for that, Aminata. We will send the recordings. Sorry about that. And Ellison, thank you so much for this event. That was amazing.
Well, thank you all. I wish we had even more time for questions, because it's stuff I can talk about for hours and hours and hours. So, yeah.
We always have room for more in this type of events. So
we should just could we do sometime like an open forum, like just let's talk about this stuff?
Yeah, maybe we should check it out, people. I have an idea.
No.
How about an open Q&As, which would be part 3, and we will push it in a few months from now, and do something like that. What do you think? Let's see.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, if you're down for that, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We could also do something cool, like trying to collect all of the questions in advance, not all of them, but some of the questions in advance, and then people could do some follow-ups live. I think that could be cool.
Yeah.
Let me think about it. I think we might have an idea here. And awesome, people. So thank you everyone for joining. Just a reminder, this event was produced by the UX Writing Hub. We really appreciate the time and effort that you put into joining this type of events. In order to keep doing it, please spread the word, tag us on Instagram if you can, and just to watch our weekly newsletter for more updates and stuff like that. I will personally really appreciate it. And Everson, and thank you so much for hosting this event. Anything you want to share?
Thank you. No, I'm just every time we do one of these, it's just, I always have so much fun, and everyone's so fun. Just it makes it so easy to pop in, and yeah.
And so many people from all over the world.
I love it.
I love this type of events. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next event. Ciao. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Don't forget to check our free course. Ciao. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.